A very good day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Riddhi Kumtekar, your host for today's episode of Smart Talks by Lincoln University of Business Management. Today, we'll be talking about one of my favorite topics, that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the art of turning innovative ideas into profitable business. The digital age, it has taken over new dimension, and the internet has given us amazing opportunities. Talking about entrepreneurship, we have a very honorable guest with us today who has over 17 years of experience and a certified compliance expert and a digital disrupt enthusiast in fintech and microfinance at a global and regional level, who has also worked with the big four in the market. Please allow me to introduce Mr. Rashid. Thank you for joining with us today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, my very first question is we are witnessing a significant traction, especially among youngsters, to establish their own startup. What is a startup and why are they so excited to establish this?
Well, thank you so much. Well, startup is not a new concept. It's been there for a while, but it's formalized in 2013 based on certain theories and etc. But what I personally believe is every venture, the starting point is a startup. So when they start any venture is a startup. The only difference is after 2013, the definition or the concept of startup is being formalized. Now, based on the new criteria, as I mentioned earlier, introduced in 2013, any new venture that has an idea at an ideation stage, number one, that is more important characteristic. If your business model is completely developed, you do not fall in the criteria of startup. So if you are at an ideation stage, one important characteristic. Second is you may have funding available or you may relying on funding of any other investor. So this is again very important. So number one is you are at ideation stage, you have limited funding or no funding available, but still with this, you can inspire your investors, you inspire with your consumers, you can sell your idea.
Right.
This is called a startup. So companies, if you see, there are so many companies already established in the market, they are not a startup. Uniqueness of idea is really very important. Third important characteristic of startups usually in this world is tech savvy. If you are tech savvy,
Right.
if you are relying on technology, because technology you can use to scale your business very quickly, fast. Whatever the industry, whatever the sector you see, definitely you see some involvement of technology. So startup is number one, tech savvy. Number two, you have funding, you don't have funding available, you are relying on investors' funding. And third is you have a unique idea. This is called a startup.
Wow.
The second part of the question is really interesting.
Right.
Because why it inspired youngsters and university grads like yourself, let's
Like me,
suppose.
exactly.
Like yourself.
Yeah.
So someone asked me, what exactly the starting point? Why startup? The concept of startup inspired. People may have different views. My personal view is it is about ownership of what you want to do, because youngsters. I'll give you one example. There is a research from US. It's a recent research. According to this research, 60% of teenagers, they want to start their own business or a startup. They do not want to work a typical 9 to 5 job, working for a multinational. So slavery, breaking the chains of slavery is another important. But this is not the only reason. Contribution, the third important.
Absolutely.
Contribution, what you know, what you can contribute is really important. Because in my 17 years journey, what I really enjoyed, I consider myself successful, is whatever I developed is still there. So contribution, freedom and ownership. This is the essence of startup. It's not about money. It's not about you need to earn money. If this is your intention to earn money, you may have other options available. Startup is operationalize your ideas, implement your ideas, and see the success.
Very well explained, actually. Like you've inspired me to start up my own startup, which I will
Definitely.
for sure, inshallah.
Definitely.
So moving on to the next question. During the last few decades, several startup companies have become unicorn. What is a unicorn and what makes it a unicorn?
Yeah, it's interesting question because again, in business world, there are certain standards already set. There are standards not set, but it is generally accepted rules to explain something. Now, unicorn is the way it is generally understood is any startup. It should be a startup. It is really important.
Right.
If you are talking about a unicorn, the starting point is a startup. Every unicorn, the starting point is startup, and then they progress definitely. So one important point is it should be a startup at some point of time. One. Second important characteristic of a unicorn is it should reach the valuation of $1 billion or more. So typically in financial world, when we talk about unicorn, we only talk about valuation of a company or a startup $1 billion or more. I personally think this is not accurate because you need to combine multi different characteristics of a startup to become a unicorn. Just based on $1 billion valuation, you cannot become a unicorn. So one important thing is you should be a startup at some point of time. You reached a valuation of $1 billion. And the third very important characteristic is you are not at IPO stage, not gone public.
Can I know what that means?
So it is initial public offering,
Okay.
stock exchange,
Okay.
market.
Right.
So
Okay.
you haven't reached to a stage where you go for IPO because IPO is the last stage of a startup journey because this is your exit point. It means you are exiting from a startup.
Okay.
So you should not reach there. Now, it is really important to understand. It means if you are not at the stage of IPO, where exactly you are mainly relying on investors, private equity. One investor, two investor, all multiple investors. You have equity of investors, private investors, you are still private. You are not at IPO stage. So this is important consideration. And the fourth one is tech savvy. So if
Tech
they are
savvy,
tech savvy, it's really important. If you have private equity, you have not crossed 10 years. It is again one important consideration. So if you cross 10 years, so typically based on the standard and criteria, you do not fall in the criteria of a unicorn. So unicorn journey is not easy. You need to keep in mind all those consideration, all those factors to become a unicorn. When you talk about Facebook, there are so many, several unicorns already operating. Facebook is one of them definitely. But when I talk about unicorns, typically in modern world, is SpaceX is a very good example of unicorn because they brought a completely new idea. New idea means space tourism. So it's
Wow.
there. Of course, I know Elon Musk, he is trying,
Yeah.
Space is also trying, and other companies also, but these are very few companies. And idea is just started. So I think another example I would say is Telegram. So
Yes,
Telegram
of
is
course.
another unicorn.
Yeah.
And why they are different? Because when I first time used Telegram, it's really different from WhatsApp. Why it is different? Because they are offering so many services
Yeah.
in one product. You can buy and sell crypto. You can connect with different chat groups. So definitely these are the functionality there. So that's why it is unique. So I believe the uniqueness of idea is really important, and not just one specific industry. It can go anywhere.
Anywhere.
Hospitality,
Diverse. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I see unicorns.
Amazing. Very well explained. I hope you all are taking down notes. What is the typical life cycle of a startup to become a unicorn? Like, what's the life cycle span?
Yeah. So if you see startups, someone the other day was asking me, what is the success rate of a startup? I think I don't have statistics at the moment with me right now, but what I think is 95% failure of a startup. And what is the reason? Because when you just start, when your intention is just to start a business, earn profit, the way you mentioned in the beginning, entrepreneurship is about generating profit.
Yeah,
So
from
if this
ideas.
is your intention, definitely then you cannot become an entrepreneur in terms of setting up your startup. So it is definitely different. But the journey is very unique and interesting. And I think it is really important for founders, startup founders, to understand this journey. Considering the specific criteria of startup, uh, ideation is the first starting point. You are a university grad and you have an idea. I think Facebook is a very good example of this. These were university grads,
Yeah.
but they had an idea. Initially, they struggled, but they had an idea. So, idea is really important. Now, idea, it is really important to understand idea. It's not a copy paste of another idea.
Right.
It should not be copy. It
Something
should be
unique.
unique.
Yes.
It should be unique,
Right.
definitely. Otherwise, you won't be able to tap market because there are other players already operating in market. So, one important thing. A second important thing is if you have an idea, then you need to pitch this idea to investors.
Yeah.
Because you rightly mentioned initially, and someone asked me as well, what is the value of capital in a startup? I think extremely, extremely important. Both idea and capital goes hand in hand.
Hand in hand,
You cannot say one is important than others. It is not possible. Capital is anyways required. Now it is really interesting to understand capital as well. Capital is not just you get money from someone. Yes, this is one capital. Another form of capital is your investment in terms of your efforts.
Yeah.
You can go work for a multinational company, but you are sacrificing your income, your earning to work for a multinational company to an idea that no one knows.
Exactly.
So it means this is also capital. Intellectual capital is also really important. There are several forms of capital. So the second important, and as I mentioned, the starting point is idea, definitely, but you need to pitch your idea to get necessary capital. It could come from your own pocket. It could come from investors. Initially, uh, investors' psyche is they want to see value in idea. So investment business and investment industry is very risky business industry when it comes to startup, because why would they invest in a concept, in idea that does not have any value?
Exactly.
So, but still, to some extent, they are investing. To some extent, they are investing. So, second important step is definitely funding. Funding has different stages. Uh, Seed funding round, and then you have Series A funding, then you have Series B funding, then you have Series C funding. It depends what level you reach. You may reach to seed funding only and you collapse. There is a possibility. You may reach to Series A and then you can collapse. Because what happens when you start a startup, when you start a company or a new venture, you need some time to generate revenue. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 4 years. To reach to a break-even point, it takes some
It
time.
takes time, of course.
Now, how you're going to run your business? You cannot run your... Initially, you are the only one or maybe two founders, co-founders, but you need to build your team as well.
Yeah.
So in this startup journey, you need capital, definitely. You need idea, but you need strong minds. If you don't have strong minds, you cannot continue your business. So strong minds, you need financing. If you don't have financing. So investors do understand this. So what they do is initially your seed funding, they invest some funds and they see the progress. And if it is progressing, then investors are ready to invest in Series A and subsequently to expand your business Series B, and then of course to reach to your IPO stage Series C, etc. So these are different. Several startups, they reach to start, and I've seen, I don't want to quote names, but I've seen in regulator sandboxes that when they presented their ideas, they collapsed at seeding stage. At seed, they said, well, it is really difficult to raise capital, so we are done here.
Oh man.
So it requires it assess your patience as well.
Yeah, of course.
So coming back to the journey part is of course idea and of course your investment. Then launch your product
Yeah.
and see the traction. If you are not seeing traction, something is wrong.
Yeah.
There is a problem. So you need to fix this problem. And finally, your exit plan. Exit is really important even from regulators' perspective. What they see, they want to see from the beginning is what is your exit plan. What is exit plan? Exit plan is not just IPO. Exit plan means merger or acquisition. It could be merger acquisition because one of the typical mindset of startup founders is bring your company to a level to increase the valuation and sell your company. And that's it. You exit. So this could be one strategy. Another strategy is you go for IPO. Third strategy is not a strategy. Unfortunately, it happens is wind down. Wind down your business because business is not operating. I've seen so many companies wind down because they don't have sufficient funds available. They are not generating good traction in the market, and investors are not ready to invest. And investment is very difficult now. Starting from 2022, it's a significant decline in investment.
Why has that happened?
I don't want to say COVID was the only reason, but COVID is one of the reasons.
Many factors,
definitely.
of course.
Many factors.
Yeah.
The second decline is because during COVID time, so much investment happened in digital businesses. Digital business, whether it is
Right.
card, whether it's non-card, digital businesses. But the failure, when they see failure, now they are rethinking about their strategies. And there is one more important consideration and aspect of investment, decline investment is valuation. I'll talk about valuation later on at some point of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the typical journey that once you are ready to exit, it means your journey is almost completed. I'll give you one example is Kareem. This taxis and food company is they acquired one small fintech. When I met this the CEO of this fintech, he was happy because that was the plan. He reached to a stage where the valuation increased. He sold his company to Kareem, and that's it. Now he's going to start new venture. So many investors, because see, if you are earning 3-4 years, you invest your time and you, let's suppose, earn $2-3-4 million, why not? Sell your business, go for exit and start a new venture. I'm sure in 3-4 years time, you have new ideas and you cannot implement those ideas with your existing venture.
Right.
So that's the typical journey of a startup.
It's very important to have an exit plan for sure.
Exactly, very important.
Very nice. Spot on information. Thank you so much. My next question to you is a very interesting question. Why North America, Western Europe, China, and India are dominating and have the largest number of setups and unicorns? How geographical presence contributes to becoming a unicorn?
Yeah. See, I think whether we talk about North America, specifically USA, we talk about India, we talk about China, we talk about Europe as a whole, Europe as well. Geography is definitely important because of the population size. Like only India and China, they are almost half population of the globe. So number one. And they are very successful because I still remember that one of my friend from India, he mentioned about the small shopkeeper or maybe cobbler. They have QR codes now available with them.
Really?
Like they do not accept cash. They have QR
Wow.
codes available.
It's all digital.
It's all digital. Why they reach to this? And to be very honest, India is a very good example because of the different pockets of their population. They have definitely very big middle class, but still they are poor class there.
They're really evolving, for
but
sure.
even this poor class, they are using QR codes and all digital media very, very, very frequently. So coming to your question is what is the? I think population is really important. I know so many, like, let's give an example of China only. China is one of the country, highest population, but large number of unicorns. And these unicorns are not operating outside China. Within China, they become unicorn. So within China, they become, how it is possible? Because of the size of the population. The same way, India is another example, Europe as a whole, and North America, specifically US, huge population, so much opportunities. So this is one important consideration. The second important consideration is the technology innovation. Means these so the technology and innovation, whether it is US, whether it is China, like India is very good example of this recent launch of their satellites, and
Right.
it's definitely a very good example. So these countries are investing a lot in technology. So if you are if you're capable to invent your own technology, if you are self-sufficient, you can build your own platforms. So India is known for their software export. I know from my previous experiences, most of the institutions I worked for or organizations I worked for, they use Indian softwares. Whether it is FlexCube and so many other softwares. I remember during my Western Union times, Western Union moved their technology department to Pune, India,
Oh,
completely.
really?
800 technology developers, all
Oh my
India.
God.
So that's how things are changing. I think technology innovation is important. Countries that are not self-sufficient, they do not have a strong technology base. It is difficult to it is difficult to establish to see some progress in startup, because you are relying. See, if you acquire solutions from external parties, you are unable to develop your own solution. It's quite expensive. I've seen companies that acquired solutions, small startup, $2 million, $3 million. It's quite expensive. It's not sustainable. You cannot do that unless you have in-house capability to. The same way countries, if you have in-house capability to develop your platforms, your system, your technology, you understand technology. This is one of the strongest requirement or prerequisite to become fintech or startup friendly countries. A most important, I would say, factor is regulations, regulatory requirement. See, financial services are very much regulated. Not everywhere, because when I worked in African market, I worked a lot in African market and other countries as well. I've seen few jurisdictions that are very good in terms of introducing new regulations and legislations, but not everyone, because uh, technology innovations comes with risk. If you have technology,
Very
you
well
have
said.
risk.
Right.
Exactly. So you cannot avoid risk. You can avoid, or at least you can mitigate to some extent risk, if you have right regulations in place. So what happened in these three countries, specifically US, they have very strong regulatory landscape. It's slightly different from Europe and other parts of the world, including India and China and other countries. But anyways, they have their own strong regulatory landscape. Because of this strong regulatory landscape, they are not just promoting startups, especially fintechs, financial technology companies, but other startups and other areas as well. Facebook is one example. Microsoft is another example. And there are so many. Artificial intelligence, they are working a lot. India is also working a lot, but definitely US is still quite far ahead from other countries. So from regulatory perspective, US is, although they are little bit behind from other jurisdiction, for example Europe. So what they have done is, Europe, they introduced GDPR. So GDPR is privacy regulation.
Yeah.
So privacy is very much important, and US is little bit far behind, I would say, although they have regulations. Uh, and Europe is an inspiration. Europe is an inspiration for other countries, for example, other regions, for example, Middle East. So Middle East, whether it is UAE, whether it is Saudi, whether it is other countries, they are very much inspired from the regulatory framework of Europe. So if you have a strong regulatory framework, definitely you can promote your startups. If you don't have a regulatory framework, and I'll give you one interesting example. So I mentioned earlier about sandboxes.
Yeah.
Now, what exactly sandbox is? So sandbox is a testing lab to test your unique idea. Unique idea
Okay.
test by the regulators. Why regulators need to test an idea? The reason is, to regulate this specific concept, they don't have regulations available. So if the idea is very new, you don't have set of regulations available that regulate this service or product, then what they do is they bring those new concepts or ideas into their sandbox, and they want them to test it. Not so it is learning not just for the company startup, but for regulators as well. So regulators learn. uh, Regulatory sandbox or incubators, it is very well progressing now. Like almost every country, they have either regulatory sandbox, most of the countries, or private incubators. So if sorry, If regulator is unable to establish their own sandbox, they are getting support from private incubators or accelerators who can help them, to at least improve the ideas, to test this idea. And so UAE is at the forefront. They have very strong sandboxes, not just central bank, but DFSA, Dubai Financial Service Authority, and FSRA, ADGM as well. Saudi, they have their own sandbox, and Qatar, they have their own sandbox. So sandbox is a concept where, because what happened in the past few years back, if you go and if you want to offer a service, and the regulators, they do not have any regulations that may regulate or govern those activities, they flatly refused you. You cannot offer this service because definitely we don't have regulatory support available. But now the mindset of regulators changed, quite flexible, quite open now. So sandbox is definitely a very good example. So I think these are the few important consideration why US and China are progressing, because they have sandboxes, they have strong regulations, they have technology, they have population, and so I think these are the main reasons. Geography and these countries are very much successful.
Wow, very, very, very well explained. So coming to my next question is, what are some of the risk startup businesses may expose to that is heading to become a unicorn?
Oh,
I think it's never ending.
oh my God! So it's very important question. Why a very important question? Because as I mentioned earlier, I don't have statistics, but 90-95% failure is why. Why
Why?
a failure? You do not start your own startup or ventures to fail.
Yeah.
Definitely, you have ambitions, you have ideas, but something is lacking. Something is lacking. What is this? That
Yeah.
something is
That
lacking.
something is something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
True.
So this something is, and unfortunately, uh, the founders I met, and I always ask those questions. Uh, how exactly? What is your plan to make your company a startup successful? What is your plan? Usually, they have ambitions, but they don't have a plan. So ambitions won't help you much
Exactly.
unless you have a plan. And what is plan? So what happened? They want to sell their idea, but sell their idea. How exactly you are going to operationalize this idea? What plan do you have? They don't have a plan. Uh, Founders or people who establish their own startup, uh, I've seen some challenges with them. One of the challenge is they don't have strong teams. They believe because they have an idea, they can implement this idea successfully. This is wrong. This is completely wrong understanding and view. Definitely you have an idea, but to operationalize or materialize this idea, you need a strong team that have a strong skill set. If you want to fly an aeroplane, being a pilot, you cannot fly an aeroplane unless you have a ground staff available. You have technicians, you have radar
Right.
operators, you have they help you to operate this flying a plane. The same way, startup companies, if you don't have a strong technology team, I'm not saying a big team, maybe one or two persons, those who are specialized in technology development, they really understand technology, the dynamics of technology, the requirements of technology. If you don't have a strong finance person, so because what startup founders usually think is, if they can exaggerate numbers, if they can do unrealistic projections, this may inspire an investor. It may, but it will not you become successful, because you don't know what's your financial activity. You have significant burn rate. Your burn rate is very high. You're burning your funds very quickly, and you don't know. You don't have complete picture. You don't know where to control. So strong finance team is again very important. Compliance. You are expert of an idea, but you are not expert of compliance. So you need to make sure that you make your regulator happy, you are compliant with the requirement. Recently, one of the startup in UAE, they are in the market, it's been a while, a few $1 million penalty. Few $1 million penalty they just got. Imagine a startup got
Oh
few
my
$1 million
God.
penalty. Why? Because they were not compliant with the regulatory requirement. Initially, in the beginning, regulators were quite relaxed. Okay, because you're a startup, you are keep doing. But at some point of time, you will be held accountable of any. I'm not saying wrongdoing, but
Of course.
oversight. Let's
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah,
it happens.
definitely.
So your strong team is very much important to make your start. So this is one of the risk founders usually ignore. They say, "Fine, I'm like for example, I met one founder and I asked them, "Can I meet your technology team?" He said, "I'm the technology." I said, "Can I meet your finance team?" "I'm the finance." "Can
It's
you
like
meet
everything is all
everything?"
him. Yeah.
Exactly. And I see this startup is very close to its failure now.
Oh,
So that is a
right.
thing you need to, because see, you are not the only you have mind, you have idea, but you need to use other minds as well. This is a second important thing. Reason of failure. And third important thing is, and unfortunately what happened, this approach unicorns usually use to show exaggerated numbers, unfortunately. Valuation. Valuation is a very tricky area. Valuation is very tricky area because unfortunately there are different methods and models available, but either it is not as per market standards or requirement, or maybe it is not being followed by investment companies or founders. So if I come to you, I say, what do you think? What's the valuation of your company? You can give me just number, 5 million, 10 million. What's the basis of this number? There is no basis of this number. Unless you have fundamentals ready, you have your calculations ready, you are using some model for your company valuation. If you don't do this, you can give an exaggerated number to anyone. People may agree, investors may disagree. It depends. It depends on the investor. It depends on their interest. On the other hand, investors. I'm sometimes little surprised. Investors really do not. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes they really do not follow a standard approach for the company valuation. They rely on what the founders are saying. They rely on this. This is wrong approach. So what happened? Probably you can pass your seed funding round. Maybe you can pass your Series A, but subsequent to that, any new investor, they will want to see valuation. And I've seen cases where initially these founders they put valuation $100 million, and then subsequently at Series A or Series B, the valuation was significantly reduced. So this is important point is you need to have a very fair valuation of your. This is another important risk. And definitely see ethics. Ethics is really important because if you do not believe in company ethics, if you do not establish a strong company based on the international standards, you cannot run this company for long.
course.
Company will fail very quickly. So ethics is really important. No financial manipulation should happen. No bad governance should happen. So I think these are the some important risks usually I see in terms of failure of startups.
Wow, very, very, very well explained. I hate to be saying this, but we're coming up to our last question.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about entrepreneurship all the time, but coming on to my last question, which is very interesting, as you'd mentioned about fintech. So fintech is among the top industries with the largest number of unicorns. Why is fintech able to introduce the most successful business ideas with the highest rate of success? What are your thoughts on this?
I think the biggest success of fintech is transforming themselves from a technology company to a service company. Because what are fintechs? That is one question is.
Yeah.
So fintechs used to be technology companies in the past 10, 20 years back. For example, a banking system. When you go to a bank 30 years back, they used to use those registers and books, etc.
Yeah.
But things change at some point in time. They're using technology.
It's all digital.
All digital. These technology companies, they set the foundation and base of all your services, whether you use mobile banking, whether you use your web banking, internet banking, their softwares, everything is all technology based. When these companies realized that wow, these institutions are significantly relying on us and generating high profits, why can't we offer similar services? So from there they transform. They become because they have platform ready. They have good, skill set and understanding of business. So what they have done is they started transform themselves from a technology company to a service providing companies. And service providing means digital bank, Paytm of India.
Right.
Example. Paytm was not a technology company. I'm just giving example. These type of companies. So initially, most of the companies they were technology companies, but they become service companies subsequently. Banks are always, or financial institutions are always known as highly regulated, highly organized, highly structured, and the consumer satisfaction rate is relatively high as compared to other. Now, in this situation, when these technology company become fintech, they got regulatory support, they got customer satisfaction very quickly. They know the loopholes in banking and financial systems, and they have full understanding. So they scale their business very quickly. They scale their business very quickly because they had required understanding. So I think this is the main reason fintechs are getting more success as compared to other sectors, although other sectors have success as well. But fintech is more successful, I believe.
I even think that because of technology, because of technology, entrepreneurship is going somewhere.
Yes.
Technology is like the main factor, I feel.
You're
Correct
right.
me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Exactly. I fully agree with you. Because if you take an example of AI, what it is
Exactly.
technology.
Everyone is using AI.
AI is driving your everything. Whether how you think, whether how you speak, whether how you look.
Yeah, like if I have some ideas, I'll be like, ChatGPT, ask me this question within seconds.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, technology is really evolved. Anyways, and that's the end of our very interesting discussion that we had today. Thank you so much, Mr. Rashid, for sharing your thoughts and topic on us. And for all our listeners, if you would like to share your own experience or ask any questions, and please feel free to connect with us at LUBM Middle East page, which is also there on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And we can continue the conversation online. Until the next time, keep learning with us. That is a Smart Talks podcast powered by LinkedIn University of Business Management. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.